Welcome to Swolehammer. And this is Winning Warhammer, a series where we help both beginner and intermediate players on kind of basic concepts and how to either learn to perform at the game or just better their game in general. In this edition, we're talking about Age of Sigmar Battle Tactics. So let's just hop right into it. In 3rd edition Age of Sigmar, battle tactics act like secondary objectives in 40k, except they're supposed to be more reactive in nature. At the beginning of your turn, you choose a battle tactic, which is some sort of objective that you need to complete by the end of your turn. Thus, this gives you 2 victory points. And then once you choose a battle tactic, you can't choose the same one again for the remainder of the battle. So why do these battle tactics matter? Why would you care if you just want to smash some face? Well, in an average kind of battle plan, you can score 5 victory points per turn at max. Then the highest achievable score, and if you complete your grand strategy, which is worth 3 points, it's 28 victory points. So over the course of a game, you can get 10 victory points alone based on your battle tactics. This could equal to around 35% of your total victory points that you could earn in a game. This is obviously a huge swing percentage and can really make or break a lot of games. This is why throughout 3rd edition, a lot of factions that do well are because of easy to achieve faction-specific battle tactics. This includes factions such as Daughters of Cain, who weren't necessarily overtuned, but they had insanely easy battle tactics that eventually had to be nerfed. So now you understand what battle tactics are and why they matter. Riley's going to deep dive into the General's Handbook 23 to 24 battle tactics and give some tips and tricks on how you might play them for the next year.
So we're just going to kick things off with your standard opening battle tactics. Typically we're looking at turn 1 or turn 2. Sometimes these may conflict with ones you might want to do out of your faction battle tactics, but we're not talking about that today. First up, we have Magical Dominance. You want to deploy a caster just kind of outside of unbind range for this, just to guarantee that you're going to be able to get your spell off without any shenanigans from your opponent. The only other caveat to this is that you won't be able to cast any other spells just in case like one of them doesn't go off, because the caveat to this battle tactic is that all of your spells have to go off. None of them can be unbound or fail. So if you deploy your caster outside of unbind range, you cast your spells in the hero phase, then you move up during the movement phase so that you can unbind your opponent's spells. You're good to go. Easy 2 points. Next up, we have Led into the Maelstrom. This is really strong for maybe your Alpha Strike list, but generally with most lists, you're going to be looking at this being a turn 2 battle tactic. So it's really good. You bring one hero into, you charge one hero into combat. You charge one battle line unit into combat as well. Both make the charge. They don't have to be near each other or anything. And then one of those units at least has to be within engagement range of an enemy unit at the end of the turn. So make sure that you're not charging them into something that you know that you can kill, because then you won't be standing next to anything and the battle tactic will fail. Ideally, you also obviously don't want to charge into something that's going to kill you back. But that's about it for this one. Okay, finally for the starter battle tactics, we have Surround and Destroy. For this one, you pick 3 different friendly units on the battlefield, and you complete it if they're all wholly within, that's important, 6 inches of a different battlefield edge, and only one of those battlefield edges is obviously like your own. The other 2 units have to be outside of your deployment zone. So if you deploy with this one in mind, it's really not hard to do, especially if you just have 3 units that you don't mind having them kind of hang back. And maybe on the edge of like a backfield objective, and then 2 of them moving up the side just to try to flank your opponent. Sometimes that's stuff that you're going to be doing anyway. It might feel like you're kind of pulling, going too far outside of what's going to effectively be the game, and maybe those units could get pinned by your opponent. But generally speaking, at worst, you're pulling your opponent's units away from objectives and toward the edge of the battlefield where they don't want to be, but you got points for doing it. Next up, we've got Intimidate the Invaders. This is one that you're going to be tempted to try to shoot for on an early turn, but definitely this is one that you want to save. Basically, for this one, you just have to have more friendly units outside of your deployment zone than within it. So if you have most of your guys kind of in the mix, you just kind of pick this battle tactic and you get it. This is kind of an easy one to kind of save for like a struggle turn when there's really no other battle tactics that you can really think might be doable. Next up, we have Reprisal. It's kind of a more specific eye for an eye. Your opponent has to have already killed your general, and you just kill the unit that killed your general. It doesn't have to be in the previous turn. It doesn't even have to be recent. It could have been, turn 1 and now it's turn 5. You're good to go. This can be tricky if they got sniped by something that just sits on your opponent's backline and you don't have a way to get to it. But in general, this is, I would say, a middling difficulty battle tactic. You're going to use this one a lot. The next up is Endless Expropriation. This is definitely one that I could see people using. It's pretty situational, though. It just depends on what your opponent brings to the table and what abilities you have to kind of mess with their spells and incarnates. Hopefully just the one incarnate. Basically, you mess with the enemy unit that's bonded to the incarnate or controlling an endless spell, and you make that not true by the end of the turn. You can either kill the unit that's controlling or bonded to the endless spell or incarnate, you can set the endless spell or incarnate wild, or you can take control of it. There's some synergy with the new Rupture spell, if you take a look at that at the GHB, but outside of that, I think this is pretty situational. If you can do it, great. It's only going to be in specific scenarios. Now we have Magical Mayhem. This is going to be a favorite of Tzeentch players, Teclis players, Warsong Bomb, Sylvaneth players, all alike. It's really just kill a unit with a spell or an endless spell. That's it. There's no caveats. Get casting. And finally, we're down to Bait and Trap. This is going to be really easy for some factions, but really hard for most. You have to retreat with 2 units, and then you have to charge with 2 different units. This is going to be naturally pretty easy for factions like Nighthaunt, who just have universal retreat and charge. Again, they have to be different units, but you're still going to be doing that with all of your units more than likely every turn. So that's an easy pickup. For most lists, though, I don't really see this one being used super frequently. Maybe something that has retreat and shoot for like a Castle army. You get charged, you survive, you retreat with 2 of them so you can shoot, and then charge with 2. You have to have a lot of material on the board to be able to even pull this off. So this would be probably turn 3 at the latest. I wouldn't burn this on turn 1 or turn 2, I don't think. It's so situational. If this is good for you, great. If I don't really know what to rate it. It's either great or it's awful. And that's pretty much it.
Thanks for watching. If you like this content, it being a new series or any of our old content and would like to see more of that, let us know in the comments or let us know in the polls that we do pseudo regularly. As always, this is Rafik from Swolehammer. Stay swole.